you know. There you go.
Hi, this is Steph from Primary Care Online. In today's video, we're going through the workflow management system with integration to the Engage system, which has integration into all clinical systems, Vision, EMIS, and System 1. So we're going to share screen now to go to one of our test websites. So you can see here now that we're in the test website for one of our test surgeries, Regent Street Surgery. This is the template as how your website would look. You've got a lot of things on the homepage, but we've got a lot of forms in the website. So you can see here this surgery, for example, is split between request a routine non-clinical appointment, request an urgent appointment, plus we have a lot of admin queries which link to forms for new doctor sick note, additional sick notes, consent forms, average blood pressure calculations, and so forth. So imagine a patient is submitting a request, for example, for a non-urgent appointment. They can we can build this whichever way you want. It's fully customizable. The patient can fill it out. So they can fill it out on behalf of themselves, on behalf of a child or somebody else, and then put their details in, fill it out, again, date of birth, and then answer the questions as they come up. So we can put in here headaches, and then attach a file if they wanted to. They can attach multiple images. So let's attach an image there. Luckily, this has got spell check built in for us, and then they could go on and the form can be fully customizable to what you want. Once they completed the form and all the mandatory fields, we can make some fields mandatory and others not mandatory. That's entirely up to you. We'll work with you to build these forms. Once they click on click on security and then submit, this form then is submitted to the Engage system for you to manage from there for your full workflow systems. Now we're going to start go over to Sandeep, who's a representative from Engage, so he can show you the full Engage system integration with your clinical system.
Brilliant, thanks, Steph. Hello, everyone. My name is Sandeep, part of the Engage Health Systems team. We'll start just by popping my screen on, which should come over. There we go. This way. Brilliant. So yeah, as Steph mentioned, once the forms are submitted onto the Engage Consult client, this is what we're looking at the home page here. We have a number of different requests or forms which have come through already, and we also have some panels here on the left-hand side confirming your organization and your specific requests. The reason I highlight this on the left-hand side is we have an option for group working, where requests can be assigned to specific groups or specific individuals within the organization. Give you a little highlight of how that works. In your account settings, just in the top right corner, what you're able to do is you're able to cover specific individuals within your organization. Here we have Steph and another colleague we've added to the organization, Dr. Rankin. But what may be more useful for specific organizations is specific groups. So here we can see admin requests, here we can see doctors' requests, pharmacist requests, nurses' requests. These groups can be completely configured by each organization at an individual level and added to your specific organization. So when you, as a user, log on to the Engage client, you can now see on the left-hand side your specific groups where these forms can be assigned to either manually through receptionist team, triaging team, or whoever, or these forms can be automatically routed to the specific group or individual as well. What you may see on the home screen is the three forms that we've submitted already. The first one we'll highlight is the top form up here. So this is a form here submitted by Steph. Here we can see the patient has been initially matched already. Through our PDS search, we should have this in place, and that should come through when the patient's details are searched across the clinical system. Once that match is confirmed, it will let you know just up here in the orange sort of tint color, and then you'll need to just quickly verify the patient just to make sure that they are confirming who they are. You can do this a number of different ways, either phoning them to confirm their identity, if you know them personally, or complete a document check. Once you've hit confirmed, patient is now verified, and that's that now complete from their perspective. On the request page, we have a few different icons that we can choose from. We can mark a request either as urgent, same-day, routine, or leave it unprioritized. Now, I mentioned we can assign requests to specific groups or individuals. The way you would do this is in your Action tab, you can click Assign to, and this will pop up the list of groups within the organisation and the list of individuals within the organisation. So if I was to pop this into the doctors group, for example, it would pop into the doctors group here, nurses group into the nurses group over there. That would be an example to choose from. The full form details are listed down below. As we can scroll down, we have the request information, so the full patient information as well. Notes can be added on to the form too, and two-way messaging is also available with our Engage client as well. So the way the two-way messaging would work is when the patient submits their forms, they would supply an email address, which we would then pop an email over to the patient. So if we use one of the messaging templates available, so this is a request for a non-urgent routine appointment, so we can use the non-urgent routine appointment template, which we have. Send that message over. It pops an email over to the patient to let them know that there's a message from their practice regarding the form that they submitted. They would on their emails, click into the message and be able to view that message. And then if you, as you may have noticed, allow the patient to respond, you can do so, or you can also not allow the patient to respond. So an example there would be if you consider the request complete and you've uploaded the request to the clinical record, you can mark that as don't allow the patient to respond, let them know that their form's being dealt with, and they'll get back in touch within X amount of days. The last piece we'll look at just on there as well is now uploading the request onto the patient's clinical records. So as Steph mentioned, we have clinical integration across all of the major clinical systems. That's EMIS PCS, EMIS Web, Vision, and System 1. So with your clinical connection just up here in the top left, as long as that's connected and as long as the patient is verified, if you click Action, you're sending to clinical. What this does is it will take the request information. You can pop in a title, so for patient, add in some details, message to patient, etc. What was the consultation method, if any, and what was the outcome of that as well? So let's say a prescription was issued. Clinical codes can be added to the specific form as well, and photos, as Steph mentioned, can be uploaded with the form. These can be selected and deselected onto the patient's clinical record as well. Scrolling down a little bit further, what we can see is the form itself, and here we also have the message to the patient too. If there's any of these points here on the Engage client which you feel you don't need to add to the clinical record, you can simply deselect the message, for example. Once that's ready to upload, send to clinical, and that pops over to your relevant clinical system. We highlighted the patient verification earlier, so this is something that we've been working on since we partnered up with My Surgery app here at Engage Consult. So you may have noticed we have one of these requests which the patient has already come through verified. So if we click on this one here, we can see once it pops up, the patient has already been verified, meaning that step is taken away from the process, so you're able to continue and complete the request as normal. This one will add a quick note to the request and we'll assign the request over to the doctors group for the doctors to complete a task, let's say. So what we have in our Action tab, or if you click in the Notes module, if you click New Note, you're able to add a specific note onto the request. So let's say complete task 1, 2, 3. We have added the assign request to function within the note itself. So what you can do is assign this directly over to the doctors group with that complete task note in there, add note, and if we keep an eye on the left-hand side here, we can now see the doctors group has a specific request to complete. So if I user part of the doctors group, could be part of the nurses group, pharmacist group, could be myself, log into the Engage client, I would see this request come in here. Here's the form, here's the note, complete the task, send to clinical, however way you want to work that. The final thing to just double check is the requests which may come through unverified and unmatched. So for example, it would be this one here. If we click into this, what If the patient isn't able to be matched against a specific record on the clinical system, what it will do is it will search for that patient with the details that are available to them, and it will show you any details that match. So here we have two. We've got here one with the relevant NHS number, so we'll use this one. So that's us match the patient to the clinical record, and then the second piece then would just be to, as you may have seen earlier, verify that patient against either the clinical system, complete a documentation check, or you can phone them to confirm their identity. So you can do that there. Those are, I guess, the three options you have where a patient comes through completely unmatched and unverified. You would have those two steps. Patient can come through matched, and you would verify on the last occasion, or the patient can come through as verified already, as highlighted on this one here. We also have a handy dashboard where an organization can keep track of how many open requests a specific user has, how many requests that they've been assigned to on a specific day, how many requests they've completed on a specific day. And if this does quickly just load up here, this section over here on the left-hand side will highlight the total amount of requests coming into the organization on a specific day. We'll just give that a moment while that loads. But as you can see here, it's a very user-friendly homepage for the user to confirm all the information from there in that first occasion. Just not loading that up there.
So, Sandeep, sorry, can you show also the message template you've got?
Yep, of course. We'll come back to the dashboard, but it will highlight the amount of requests which have come into a specific organization on any specific day. Message templates, of course, yes, they work in two separate levels where you have organization message templates, which are assigned in Management Console, just over here. So these organization message templates can be set for anyone within the organization to use. So if you're using the two-way message functionality and there's a specific message template that everyone should be using, these can be set for the entire organization for everyone to use as a member of the organization. And then there are the personal message templates as well, which can also be used. These ones perhaps could be used where a sign-off is needed for a specific user or individual, and that specific user and individual will be the only person that has access to the specific message template, as it's a personal message template that's attached. And we'll highlight that here just now, actually. If I jump back into the messages, here we can see the organization templates for everyone within the organization to use, and here's a personal template only I can use. And if I click this one, you can see, hello, Steph, signed by me as a specific user, and that would only be available for myself.
And for those messages, you can attach attachments.
Of course, yes. Attachments can be taken directly from the computer or uploaded from the patient's clinical record. So if you were to form a sick note, for example, you can add that directly from the clinical system. And those can also be included within the message templates as well, as you may have highlighted. So if we go back to this one here, we can see if there's a specific attachment that you'd like to add to the templates, you can also do so here as well.
Great.
We'll also very briefly, yep.
Sorry,
is it the create a request function?
Yeah, so last question for me. Some clinicians asked about the floating toolbar. If they're in, for example, if they're in a patient in EMIS and they've got the toolbar, can they action something from within that patient? If they click on plus to the floating toolbar, do they have to open up Engage, or can they just do it from the toolbar and it'll open up that patient that they're actually logged into in EMIS or Vision?
So yes, if they do have the floating toolbar enabled, which is in the top right corner over here, if using System 1, for example, if I was to click on this button, it will just minimize the Engage client as a whole, and you're still able to have a look at all the information over here as well. Create a request on behalf of a patient, which we'll highlight in just a moment, video call and open client. And as I mentioned as well, if we have the clinical integration and as the patient is matched across to the clinical system as well, what we also have is the ability to open the patient records. So if you click this button over here, patient records are already open in System 1, of course. So if I discard this patient very quickly, jump back in, it highlights if that's the case as well, which is quite good. But if I click this button over here, And you can see system 1 is now highlighting that it's now reopened this patient on the clinical record. So if I can scroll down here, I'll be able to quickly, at a glance, have a look at the patient's details. So if I discard that patient again, just to highlight this button up here, opens the patient record. So as highlighted back on the system 1 homepage, open the patient records. And it should, yeah, as I say, that should open that up there. It's not at that time, but yeah, that's available across all clinical systems as well, not just system 1. We have it with EMIS Web, EMIS PCS, and Vision as well. The final point then to highlight is the create a request functionality, which we also have for our users as well. So if a patient is unable to submit, API's failed. If the patient is unable to submit one of those forms online and they do call the practice, and you do want to keep that request on the Engage client, for example, you can still do so in the create a request feature here. So you would just go through some basic questions with whomever's on the phone. So is the inquirer the patient? Yep, they are. If we use my test patient, which I've used in the past, for example, we can type in the patient's name. It'll check across the clinical system. Here we have a couple of different patients, just confirm it's the right one. Yep, that's fine. What's your admin query type? Is it an admin? Is it a medical? We go for a medical query. We can type in headache. It's usually a good one. Is it a new problem? What kind of further information do we have? So head or days. Hit next. Automatically put a priority on the request if it's an urgent request, and we can assign it over to specific users and groups as well. So we'll pop this over to Dr. Rankin, for example. Hit submit. And that's now directly popped into Dr. Rankin's user group. So if they click in here, they'd see this urgent medical request, which has come in for the patient. Click into the request, and it will just come in highlighted with the information that was previously typed in by the user. I guess that highlights some of the key features available for the Engage client and working across with the My Surgery app and the clinical systems. Back over to Steph then.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. Thanks for that. So that's a very quick overview of the website and the integration we have with Engage, and then of course going back into your clinical system. So if you do have any queries or want to get in touch, I have a demo of this again. Then please do get in touch, review this video. But as I said, any help, then please do get in touch. Thank you.